I would like to welcome security engineer from Intel, James Tucker. Stage is yours, James.
Okay. After Johanna's talk, I think I need a nap. So, my name is James Tucker, and I am a SE at Intel Security, formerly McAfee. Is that better? Okay, I don't even know where that came from. Okay, so I'm Jim, hi. All right, so I've got 15 minutes here to talk about something, and in case you guys can't tell, I'm actually poppeledig right now. So a little out of the loop. So if you guys came expecting, 15 minutes of all of the wonderful security technologies, marketing slides, and that kind of stuff, I'm sorry, that isn't this talk. This is Jim's been home changing diapers and thinking about big stuff talk, okay? And especially when I sat down and I looked at this, I said, oh, well, maybe I'll write something about crypto malware. That's interesting, that's fun, everybody's talking about it. But then I looked and saw Mr. Schneier was the headliner, and you think about his work and some brain cells start rubbing together. And I've ended up with this talk here. I don't have a clicker. It would have been awesome if it worked. Oh, you could have clicked for me. So if I'm not going to be talking about marketing stuff, right, what is this talk about? And as you said in the intro this morning, we want to facilitate discussions, think about kind of bigger topics. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here. So, just a starter, is crypto, inherently good? Who thinks crypto is inherently a good thing? You just heard me talk about cryptographic malware, right? What about privacy? Is privacy inherently a good thing? Probably most people would say so. What about this? Is it possible to have too much cryptography in your life? Is it possible to have too much privacy, right? Aside from the fact that if you're too private of a person, you kind of live in a cave and everybody thinks you're weird. The purpose of this talk is actually sort of a modest proposal, if you will. I do think it's possible to have too much cryptography in your life, and I do think it's possible to have too much privacy in certain contexts. All right, I'm waiting for the Twitter hate to start any minute now, guys. Soon. So, too much of a good thing, right? I think that people who have been hit, my customers who have been hit with ransomware, CryptoLocker, all its little buddies and friends, evil little bastards that they are, would agree, yeah, we have too much cryptography in our environment, right? We can't access any of our data because it's all encrypted, which is mostly a problem of who has the key, but it is too much cryptography in that context. But at its core, crypto is neither good nor evil, right? It's anybody D&D persons, my nerd is showing, right? It's true neutral, right? Alignment chart, right? It can be used for good or bad. We can encrypt dissident emails from an oppressive regime just as well as if I got hit, it could encrypt all of the baby pictures from all three of my children, and my wife would hate me for the end of time, right? Security vendors, any other security vendor, and our marketing teams will tell you all about the solutions that we have for this kind of malware, right? Essentially, though, from my perspective, and I'm guessing most of the panel, the best thing is just make sure your stuff's backed up, yeah? My issue here, though, is when you read about security concerns and big things here, you'll see that people say, just encrypt everything, end to end, right? if we could just encrypt all the communications from his phone to your phone, all of our problems would be fine. Or from his laptop to your servers, everything would be fine. Crypto, all the things, right? Anybody think that's the solution to? All right, where's cryptera.se? I would argue that it's not. I would actually say that at some point, the more you encrypt, the harder it gets to actually protect you against threats, okay? If all of your encryption, or if all of your comms are encrypted, and crypto can be used for good and evil, that means that the bad guys can use it just as well as the good guys. So when we look online at what's out there, and we see that, okay, well, crypto is being sold as the way to ensure your privacy, right? We're going to encrypt everything, and mo crypto, mo privacy, everything's good. You see them being almost equal in a lot of places, a lot of thoughts. So if we assume that cryptography is inherently neither good nor evil, right? And crypto is generally used for privacy, is privacy really the highest virtue, right? Is that the most important thing in your world? That you don't trust anybody to see the I don't know, video of your cat that you're trying to send to your mom or whatever it is, or read your emails. I mean, did anybody see the report last week about the guy who runs his own email server and then calculated how many of his emails actually went through Google servers, even though he worked really hard, right? At some point, though, you're going to have to sacrifice your ability to be secure for your privacy. And that's your pivot point, okay? If you encrypt everything, and I as a security vendor can't look at it, then I can't look into that encrypted stream and see what's going on. Think about in a corporate setting. Now we talked about different concept or context of trust, right? But in a corporate setting, how many of you have a web gateway type proxy thing somewhere in your corporate environment, right? Does it do SSL decryption? But privacy is the highest virtue. Crypto is going to solve all our problems, right? And when I present that to a company and say, hey, this is what you need to know because I need to be able to open that HTTPS stream to see if the file being transferred is a piece of malware, this guy shows up, right? And says, wait a minute, aren't you just doing a man-in-the-middle attack on my own network? Well, yeah, I am. But there are literally hundreds of thousands of different variants and lots of different security problems that we as security vendors and security professionals can't solve if we can't look in. Anybody disagree with that? Hit me up on Twitter. The point here is that crypto is cheap and easy. Anybody do malware analysis? Of course you do, right? It's totally uncommon. We never see malware that uses encrypted communications back to its CNC, right? That never happens like every single day, right? Crypto is cheap, it's easy, it works. I need to be able to break that crypto. I need to do that man in the middle in order to protect you against it. And so if I, in a corporate setting, have already said that, hey, cryptography isn't the end-all, be-all. It's not the magic pill that's going to solve all of your problems. And you can follow on to that with me to say, okay, well, I understand that in that context, we have complicated problems that we need to break my privacy, as it were, in order to be able to protect against these threats. What does that come down to? Well, it comes down to whether you trust me to do that. And we, like many of my high school girlfriends, have serious trust issues, right? Let's start from the beginning. Would you trust your corporate users to protect themselves against malware, ransomware, not clicking on emails, right? Of course not. What about your grandmother? Would you trust her to be able to protect herself and say, hey, it says my computer has 7,000 viruses. I should click this and install this software. It sounds very good, right? Of course not. That trust doesn't exist. Do you trust your employer to break your privacy when you're using your work computer to go through whatever corporate IPS, corporate proxy? You might not, but they're doing it, right? There are some customers that I talk to where they say, oh, we're going to encrypt everything and we're not going to inspect anything. And then I have customers in finance who have a policy of not encrypting anything on their corporate network so they don't have to break privacy. And obviously, both of those suck as solutions, right? What about your ISP? Do you trust your ISP to monitor your traffic and look for just bad stuff? Hell no. I have Bonhoeffer. I love Bonhoeffer, right? They're always scrapping in the newspaper, fighting against somebody. But I don't trust them. And if we think about that in context of, okay, well, I know that I need something to break that in a perfectly encrypted world. I need something to break that encrypted communication. So we can look in to find out if it's good or bad, whether that file that's being downloaded is a good file or a bad file. And I'm a network guy, so I'm biased, but I'm not going to just trust solely endpoint, right? I want to trust a multi-layer security solution. So if we think about the current systems of trust that are in use today, stuff like just DNS, right? Basic certificates. I don't know anybody who trusts those implicitly, but it's the best we got. I zigged when I should have zagged. The other thing, and this was the talk, the bit right before I came on, was trust is very contextual, right? I trust my employer to look through all the stuff I do on the web when I'm at work. But, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm browsing Reddit and bored and maybe had a whiskey or two, I don't want them to see anything that I'm looking at. No way, no how, right? Privacy is contextual, right? And if you don't think privacy is contextual, ask somebody if they trust their wife implicitly. Do you trust your wife implicitly? The answer to that will depend whether your wife is in the room or not. Trust is also cultural, right? If I think about Asian cultures, I have a friend of mine whose wife is Asian, and she won't buy from anybody that she doesn't know somebody who else has bought from that. And she's like, this is how my people work, right? I can't buy from Amazon. I don't know, Bezos. She has this very thing there. But at the core of it, and my time is winding down way faster than I expected, but at the core of it, the message that I want to send here is that advanced security, being able to look into those encrypted streams and grabbing that new form of malware, that newly generated malware variant, and look at that and throw it in a sandbox or do something to identify it as malicious and say, yeah, this is bad, you don't want it. That kind of advanced security and cryptography, encrypting all of the communications between myself and any of you, can exist side by side, but only if we solve that larger issue of trust. And how do we solve that larger issue of trust? I haven't the foggiest, right? I've got ideas, but that's not the point of this talk, right? The point of this talk is not to say this is how we do it. What I wanted to do here was to foster discussions, to get the people that I know, the people I talk to on Twitter, the people I work with, to start thinking about this and to stop spouting just encrypt everything and everything's going to be fine. And these kind of soft, not well thought through solutions that sound good. They sound really good, right? If in certain situations, I'm a vendor. I'm going to say things that sound really good. And I appreciate it if you call BS on that. Just like I'm trying to call bullshit on the idea that crypto is going to solve all of our problems and that we can't break that. It needs to be broken. So thanks. If you have pitchforks and torches, I'll be outside.